He isn't going to be able to walk our girls down the aisle or spin me around on the dance floor while singing PYT to me. But I want my daughters to know and remember the amazing person, husband, and father he was.
At 43, Vanessa Bryant's life is far from the fairy tale many imagine. Isolated from Kobe's parents, burdened with raising 3 daughters alone, and shadowed by society's control, shocking truths now surface. But the saddest reality of all, what really happens behind closed doors, remains hidden for now. Unbearable weight of raising 3 daughters alone. Every morning for the past 5 years, Vanessa Bryant has awakened to a reality that no parent should ever have to face. At 43 years old, she opens her eyes in a house that should be filled with the laughter and chaos of a complete family, but instead echoes with the absence of 2 of the most important people in her world. The helicopter crash that took Kobe and 13-year-old Gianna didn't just steal her husband and daughter, it thrust her into the overwhelming role of being the sole parent, protector, and provider for 3 surviving daughters who each carry their own unique burden of grief. The love story that had defined her entire adult life began with such promise and partnership. When Kobe described their first meeting, you could hear the wonder in his voice.
For those that don't know, yes, I had a budding music career as a rapper. It didn't last long, but I did make a video. And on the video set is where I first met Vanessa.
Their relationship was built on genuine partnership and shared dreams.
We literally did everything together. And I thought I was a big dork because I loved Disneyland. I loved the Disney movies and things like that, but I never really had a chance to go to the park much. And she was a big Disney fan too. And we used to hang out at Disneyland. We used to go to Magic Mountain. She became my best friend.
But that partnership, that shared responsibility, that beautiful balance they had created over more than 2 decades was ripped away in an instant. The depth of that partnership becomes heartbreakingly clear when we hear how Vanessa described their relationship.
Kobe and I have been together since I was 17 and a half years old. I was his first girlfriend, his first love, his wife, his best friend, his confidant, and his protector. He was the most amazing husband. Kobe loved me more than I could ever express or put into words. He was the early bird and I was the night owl. I was fire and he was ice, and vice versa at times. We balanced each other out.
Now, all of that balance rests solely on her shoulders. The parenting duties that were once shared between 2 devoted parents now fall entirely to one grieving mother. When Kobe was alive, he wasn't just present. He was actively involved in every aspect of their daughters' daily lives.
He was a doting father, a father that was hands-on and present. He helped me bathe Bianca and Capri almost every night. He would sing them silly songs in the shower and continue making them laugh and smile as he lathered them in lotion and got them ready for bed. He had magic arms and could put Capri to sleep in only a few minutes.
The loss of those magic arms represents more than just the absence of bedtime comfort. It symbolizes the crushing reality that every soothing moment, every disciplinary decision, every celebration, and every crisis now rests entirely on Vanessa's shoulders. The silly songs in the shower, the patient bedtime routines, the carpool conversations that built father-daughter bonds, all of these daily rituals that create the fabric of family life have been torn away, leaving gaps that no single parent can fully fill, no matter how devoted or capable they may be. Managing 3 daughters at vastly different life stages while processing her own grief creates challenges that most people cannot even imagine. Natalia, now 22, is navigating young adulthood while dealing with the loss of both her father and sister. She's at an age where she should be launching her own independent life, but instead finds herself part of a family unit that's been fundamentally altered. Reports suggest tensions have emerged between Vanessa and Natalia over various family matters, highlighting how grief can complicate even the closest family relationships. Whether these reports are accurate or media fabrication, they underscore the pressure Vanessa faces in maintaining family unity while everyone processes trauma differently. 8-year-old Bianca represents perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of Vanessa's current reality. She was old enough when the crash occurred to have formed real lasting memories of her father, but young enough that those memories require constant nurturing to remain vivid and meaningful. Vanessa carries the enormous responsibility of keeping Kobe alive in Bianca's mind through stories, photos, and shared experiences. The last moment Kobe spent with Bianca takes on tragic significance. He loved taking Bianca to Fashion Island and watch her play in the Koi Pond area. Their most recent visit to the Koi Pond was the evening before he and Gigi passed. Now Vanessa must be the keeper of these precious memories while also helping Bianca understand why such moments will never happen again. 6-year-old Capri faces perhaps the cruelest reality of all. She will know her father primarily through the stories her mother tells, the videos they watch together, and the legacy that Vanessa worked so hard to preserve. The fact that Kobe was able to hear Capri say Dada before he died has become one of Vanessa's most treasured memories. But that single word represents almost the entirety of their direct interaction. The weight of being Capri's primary source of information about who her father was, not just as the basketball legend Kobe Bryant, but as daddy, is an overwhelming responsibility that Vanessa carries every single day. The practical logistics of single motherhood become exponentially more complex when you're managing a global legacy worth hundreds of millions of dollars. With an estimated $600 million net worth from Kobe's estate, Nike deals, and lawsuit settlements, Vanessa has resources that most single mothers could never dream of accessing. Yet money cannot buy back the partnership she lost, cannot provide a father figure for her daughters, and cannot shield them from the unique pressures that come with being Kobe Bryant's children. The wealth actually creates its own set of challenges. Kobe's will, last updated in 2013, named Vanessa as primary beneficiary, but omitted their youngest daughter, Capri, born in 2019, though trusts reportedly cover her. Managing these complex financial arrangements while ensuring fair treatment for all her daughters, while also handling public criticism about how she manages Kobe's money, adds layers of stress to an already overwhelming situation. Every financial decision is scrutinized, every charitable donation analyzed, every expenditure on her children's welfare questioned by people who have never walked in her shoes. Beyond the logistics lies the emotional complexity of helping 3 daughters process trauma while managing her own overwhelming grief. Each child needs different types of support based on their age, personality, and relationship with their father. Natalia needs space to grieve as an adult while still receiving guidance from her mother. Bianca needs help understanding death and loss in age-appropriate ways while maintaining connection to her father's memory. Capri needs to develop a sense of who her father was without the trauma of losing him overshadowing that knowledge. The holidays, birthdays, and milestones that should be celebrations become navigation exercises in grief management. How do you maintain Christmas morning magic when half your family is missing? How do you handle Father's Day when your children are mourning both their father and their sister? How do you celebrate achievements and milestones that their daddy will never witness? These questions, which would have been addressed jointly by 2 parents, now fall entirely to Vanessa to solve. The loneliness of this decision-making process cannot be overstated. Kobe wasn't just a husband and father, he was Vanessa's confidant, her sounding board, her co-strategist in raising their daughters. The loss of that partnership means she faces every parenting challenge, every family crisis, every difficult conversation alone. When Natalia has relationship questions, when Bianca struggles with school issues, when Capri acts out or feels confused about her father's absence, Vanessa must provide guidance, comfort, and solutions without the support system she depended on for over 20 years. The public nature of their grief adds another layer of complexity that most single mothers never face. Vanessa cannot process loss privately or make parenting mistakes away from scrutiny. Every public appearance with her daughters is analyzed. Every family decision is debated by strangers on the internet. Every aspect of how she's raising Kobe's children becomes fodder for public discussion. The pressure to be a perfect single mother while grieving publicly, while managing enormous wealth and responsibility, while preserving a global legacy is almost incomprehensible. The cold rejection from Kobe's family. In the darkest period of her life, when most people would expect a widow to be surrounded by love and support from extended family, Vanessa Bryant faced a cruel reality that added immeasurable pain to her already overwhelming grief. The very people who should have been her closest allies in preserving Kobe's memory and supporting his children instead became sources of additional heartache, criticism, and public humiliation. At 43, 5 years after losing her husband and daughter, Vanessa continues to navigate single motherhood without the warmth, support, or even basic human decency from Kobe's parents, a rejection that began long before his death and has only intensified in the years since. The roots of this family dysfunction stretch back over 2 decades to the very beginning of Kobe and Vanessa's love story. From the moment their whirlwind romance became serious, Joe and Pamela Bryant opposed the relationship and eventual marriage due to Vanessa's background, ultimately choosing to boycott their 2001 wedding. This wasn't just a difference of opinion about timing or readiness for marriage. Reports indicate they preferred Kobe to marry a black woman, viewing Vanessa's Mexican-American heritage heritage as incompatible with their vision for their son's life. The cultural and racial rejection that Vanessa experienced from day one set a tone of exclusion that would poison family relationships for over 2 decades. Sources describe how the Bryants felt Kobe was prioritizing Vanessa's family financially, such as buying homes for her relatives, while neglecting his own parents. This resentment over financial support created a dynamic where Vanessa was viewed not as a beloved daughter-in-law, but as competition for their son's attention and resources. The pain of this rejection becomes even more poignant when we see how graciously Vanessa tried to bridge the divide, even during some of the most public moments of her life. At Kobe's Hall of Fame enshrinement, she made a point of acknowledging his parents with words that carried the weight of decades of disappointment.
I invited my mother and father-in-law to tonight's enshrinement to thank them for bringing one of the most amazing human beings into this world. Pam and Joe, thank you for raising Kobe to be exceptional. Thank you to all of Kobe's family.
The gracious public acknowledgement masked years of private pain and attempts at reconciliation that were consistently rebuffed. This wasn't just about personality conflicts or minor disagreements. This was about fundamental rejection of Vanessa as a legitimate member of the Bryant family, a rejection that would prove devastating when she needed family support the most. The family tensions reached a breaking point in 2013, revealing just how deep the dysfunction ran. Pamela attempted to auction more than 100 items of Kobe's memorabilia, valued at over $1.5 million, through golden auctions, including championship rings, jerseys, and trophies from his high school and early NBA career. This wasn't just a financial transaction, it was a betrayal that struck at the heart of family loyalty and trust. Kobe's response revealed the depth of his pain and anger at his parents' actions. In a public statement via ESPN, he expressed his heartbreak. "Our relationship is at I say to them, I'm going to buy you a very nice home, and the response is, that's not good enough? Then you're selling my." The raw emotion in his words shows a son who felt abandoned and exploited by the very people who should have been his strongest supporters. The lawsuit was settled out of court, with Joe and Pamela issuing what appeared to be a hollow apology. "We regret our actions and statements related to the Kobe Bryant auction memorabilia. We apologize for any misunderstanding and unintended pain we have caused our son." But the damage was irreparable. Kobe reportedly tried to mend ties before his death, but the family remained distant. Joe had waited 2 years to meet their first granddaughter, Natalia, and both parents were notably absent from Kobe's retirement game in 2016. This pattern of absence and emotional distance meant that when tragedy struck in January 2020, Vanessa found herself not just without her husband and daughter, but without the extended family support system that could have helped her navigate the darkest period of her life. Instead of rallying around their son's widow and their grandchildren, Kobe's parents seemed to retreat even further into their own grievances and financial concerns. The most telling and heartbreaking example of this continued coldness came in the years following Kobe's death. In March 2024, Joe and Pamela auctioned Kobe's 2000 NBA championship ring, a ring that had been gifted to Joe, for $927,200, sparking widespread fan outrage. The timing was particularly cruel and insensitive. While Vanessa was still processing her grief, raising 3 daughters alone and working to preserve Kobe's legacy through charitable work, his parents were literally profiting from his achievements. Social media erupted with comments calling the sale disgraceful and questioning the parents' motives, especially amid reports of their financial struggles. Fans correctly identified the moral bankruptcy of selling off their deceased son's achievements, while his widow struggled to raise their grandchildren without family support. The optics were terrible, but more importantly, the action revealed a fundamental lack of concern for how their choices affected Vanessa and the children. This situation was made even worse by public criticism that somehow blamed Vanessa for her in-laws' financial problems. Dr. Umar Johnson, a prominent Black activist and psychologist, amplified this unfair narrative in a June 2024 interview, accusing Vanessa of greed. "Kobe left his wife Vanessa a fortune, but his parents are forced to sell off collectibles to pay their bills due to a shocking display of greed." Johnson argued that Vanessa won't even throw Kobe's parents $1, framing it as a failure to honor Kobe's Black heritage. This criticism reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of the relationship dynamics and places blame on Vanessa for not financially supporting people who had consistently rejected her and her children for over 20 years. Why should a grieving widow be expected to support people who had shown no emotional support, no family warmth, and no interest in being grandparents to their son's children? The expectation that she should reward decades of rejection with financial support is not just unreasonable, it's morally backwards. When Joe Bryant passed away in July 2024 at age 60, 1969 from a stroke. Vanessa's response demonstrated the grace and maturity that had been consistently lacking from the other side of this relationship. Her Instagram tribute read, "Sending our condolences upon hearing the news of my father-in-law's passing. We hoped things would have been different. Although the times we spent together were few, he was always sweet and nice to be around. Kobe loved him very much. Our prayers go out to family." The phrase, "we hope things would have been different," carries the weight of 23 years of disappointment, missed opportunities, and one-sided efforts at reconciliation. These few words encapsulate the tragedy of a relationship that could have provided comfort, support, and shared memories during the most difficult period of her life, but instead offered only criticism, distance, and additional pain. The impact of this family rejection extends far beyond Vanessa's personal feelings. Her 3 daughters have been deprived of relationships with their paternal grandparents during the most crucial period of their lives. Instead of having additional adults who love their father to share stories, provide comfort, and offer different perspectives on their dad's life, the girls have been cut off from an entire side of their family heritage. Natalia, Bianca, and Capri are growing up without the grandparents who could have provided continuity with their father's childhood, his values, and his family history. This deprivation is particularly cruel, given how involved Kobe had been in trying to repair these relationships. Despite the ongoing tensions, he had reportedly made efforts to reconnect with his parents before his death. The tragedy is that instead of honoring those efforts by supporting his widow and children, his parents have chosen to prioritize their grievances over their grandchildren's emotional needs. The absence of warmth from Kobe's family has created a situation where Vanessa has had to be not just mother, but also the sole keeper of Bryant family history for her daughters. She cannot tell them stories about their father's childhood from grandparents who were there. She cannot rely on extended family to help with holiday traditions or family celebrations. She cannot share the burden of preserving Kobe's memory with people who knew him before he became a global icon. Instead, she faces continued criticism and judgment from the very people who should be her allies. The suggestion that she should financially support people who have shown no emotional support to her or her children reveals how backward society's expectations can be. The assumption that money can somehow make up for decades of rejection ignores the basic human need for family acceptance and emotional support. The impossible battle for autonomy and basic human dignity. 5 years after losing her husband and daughter, Vanessa Bryant faces what may be the most exhausting battle of her entire ordeal. Not the fight against grief, not the struggle with single parenthood, not even the pain of family rejection, but the relentless war for her basic right to exist as an autonomous human being. At 43 years old, she finds herself in the surreal position of having to justify her continued existence to a world that seems to believe her life belongs to public opinion rather than to herself. The woman who spent over 20 years as half of a partnership now fights daily for the fundamental human dignity that should never have been in question. The most revealing example of this societal control emerged during the pregnancy rumors that dominated social media throughout 2025. The public reaction wasn't mere curiosity or idle gossip. It revealed deeply disturbing attitudes about women's bodily autonomy, particularly for high-profile widows. The discussion on The Breakfast Club showed how invasive this speculation had become.
Well, in case anybody was wondering, Vanessa Bryant is not pregnant. So, Vanessa Bryant had to go to her Insta story and post to clear up rumors. There have been things, I guess, spreading online. I didn't even see the rumors. I just saw her post about it.
The fact that she had to address these rumors reveals how invasive and persistent the speculation had become. This wasn't optional clarification. It was forced defense of her own body and privacy. The Joe Budden podcast discussion revealed the possessive attitudes that drive such invasive behavior.
The internet has been crazy the last couple of days about this Vanessa Bryant story. I know y'all have heard it at this point. There was a rumor going on for the last 3 or 4 days that Vanessa Bryant, the widow of Kobe Bryant, was pregnant. Then there was another rumor that she was not only pregnant, but potentially pregnant by a young basketball player.
A young baller.
That was the quote that was in the news. It said a young baller. I'm assuming they meant basketball player.
But the most disturbing aspect wasn't the rumors themselves. It was the moral judgment and sense of ownership that followed. The conversation continued to reveal how many people view Vanessa not as an independent person, but as property that somehow still belongs to Kobe even in death. This attitude that Vanessa somehow still belongs to Kobe even in death, that her body and life choices are subject to public approval from strangers, represents represents one of the most toxic forms of control that women face. The idea that 5 years of grief isn't enough, that she should remain frozen in mourning to satisfy other people's romanticized notions of eternal love, reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of both love and human psychology.
I don't want to see y'all move on. Do that shit privately.
So they're supposed to walk around in public with black veils and black dresses and just
Widows
be in a constant state of mourning for the rest of their lives.
Well, that's extreme, but I would want your business to be private because we still hold these guys in high regards in my mind.
The demand that any potential relationships be conducted privately while she lives one of the most public lives in America reveals the impossible catch-22 that high-profile widows face. She cannot go to a restaurant, attend a school function, or even grocery shop without being photographed and analyzed. The expectation of privacy in a situation where privacy is literally impossible shows how unrealistic and unfair these societal demands truly are. But the judgment extends far beyond romantic speculation. Every aspect of Vanessa's life is scrutinized and found wanting by someone. Her charitable work through the Mamba and Mambacita Sports Foundation, despite involving millions of dollars in scholarships and community support, has been criticized as insufficient by people like Dr. Umar Johnson. Her donations of thousands of Nike items to wildfire victims and her decision to donate her entire $16 million jury award to charitable causes are dismissed because they don't align with certain people's vision of how she should honor Kobe's memory. The pregnancy rumors themselves represent a new form of harassment that previous generations of widows never had to face. The AI-generated deepfake images linking her to celebrities like Jaylen Brown aren't just gossip. They're sophisticated digital weapons designed to create false narratives about her personal life. The technology that should make communication easier has instead created new ways to torment and control women who dare to exist independently. Vanessa's responses to these attacks have shown remarkable strategic thinking and emotional intelligence. Her use of Rihanna memes to dismiss the pregnancy speculation demonstrated a woman who has learned to use humor as both shield and sword. When she posted herself drinking alcohol at the US Open with the caption, "Keep me posted on how this imaginary pregnancy rumor is coming along." 24 years later, same rumor, she revealed both her wit and her exhaustion with decades of invasive speculation. The weight of managing global legacy preservation while raising 3 daughters while fighting for basic human dignity while processing ongoing grief is almost incomprehensible. Yet Vanessa has handled it with a grace that should shame her critics. Her Hall of Fame speech remains one of the most powerful examples of how to honor the dead while affirming the right of the living to continue living.
Congratulations, baby. All of your hard work and sacrifices paid off. You once told me, if you're going to bet on someone, bet on yourself. I'm glad you bet on yourself, you overachiever. You did it. You're in the Hall of Fame now.
The strength required to deliver those words publicly while processing private grief, while managing public scrutiny, while raising 3 daughters alone, while fighting for basic respect is extraordinary. Yet instead of recognition for this remarkable resilience, she continues to face invasive speculation, moral judgment, and attempts to control her most personal decisions. The financial criticism she endures is particularly galling. People who have never managed a multi-hundred-million-dollar estate, never raised children alone, never balanced public philanthropy with private family needs, feel entitled to judge how she spends money that she inherited through unimaginable trauma. The suggestion that she should financially support Kobe's parents, who rejected her for over 20 years and continue to show no emotional support to her or her children, reveals how backwards and unreasonable public expectations have become. The most tragic aspect of Vanessa's ongoing battle for dignity is how it reflects broader societal problems with grief, women's autonomy, and the ownership of public figures. The expectation that she should remain in perpetual mourning, that her choices should be subject to public approval, that her body and personal life are somehow community property, represents attitudes that harm not just high-profile widows, but all women dealing with loss and trying to rebuild their lives. At 43, Vanessa Bryant stands as a powerful example of resilience, grace under pressure, and the triumph of human dignity over impossible circumstances. She has transformed tragedy into purpose, loss into legacy, and personal pain into public service. She has raised 3 daughters who appear happy, healthy, and connected to their father's memory while managing a global brand and charitable foundation that impacts thousands of lives. The woman who was once defined as half of a perfect partnership has proven that she is a complete, powerful individual in her own right. The tragedy is not that she continues to honor Kobe's memory, it's that instead of celebrating this remarkable transformation and strength, society continues to try to control, diminish, and judge her for having the audacity to continue living fully after loss. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.